Hello and welcome to the Marina Perry podcast. I am your host, Marina Perry, and this week's episode is a solo episode where my job, as I see it, is to invite you to join me in the belief that there is no more important skill set required on the planet right now than the skill set, the professional skills, if you will, of a transformational holistic coach. Now, I know that's a big call, and I totally get that I'm a little biased because I obviously, through the School of Growth, do coaching certification. So bear with me, I'm a little tongue-in-cheek on this, but also I'm not. I'm dead serious. Because think about it with me for a second. We grow up and we study physics, aerodynamics. We look at chemistry. We're learning, equations to figure out how to build buildings. We're figuring out, how to take aircraft off the ground. We're figuring out logistics. We're figuring out how to balance spreadsheets, all of these things. And I'm not saying that they're not important. But what's the thing that's building the house? What's the thing that's balancing, the finances, spending the money? What's the thing that's getting taken off in the aircraft that we actually want to keep safe, that we're building the house to protect, that we're building the money to, provide for? Well, when you sit and think about it, it's for the human, isn't it? It's all for the human. And yet, tell me where in the education system any one of us learned how to up-level, how to decode, master, magnify the human system. Now, you could argue, well, we do, Marina, through biology. Mostly we study animals, right? And we do, Marina, through nutrition. Well, I would argue that is a topic not well covered in schools, and it definitely needs more attention. But the truth is, we have humans walking the planet who don't understand their operating system. They don't understand their own triggers. They don't understand how and why they're wired. They don't understand that everyone walking the planet actually has core fundamental needs that need to be met, that we meet in slightly different ways based on the family unit we're born into, the conditioning of our very early societal influences, and then as we grow through the collective, the influences of those. And it blows my mind that we don't know that many people say they want to do something and don't do it, and yet don't understand why they don't do it. And then, of course, they go into more self-beat up, and they go into numbing and using, the alcohol, the sex, the drugs, the food, the social media, the consumerism, to distance themselves from themselves even further, because no one told them that actually you're the most magnificent machine on the planet. You just never got given the handbook. And that is what true transformational coaching, or what I call a coach, is actually about. It is about getting the handbook of your humanness. And until you have it, you are being played by the system that you are lucky or unlucky enough to be born into. And you will always be limited by the frame, the ceiling, and the floor of the original codes that are there. Now, yes, some codes do get written and rewritten just through experiences that you happen to fall into, but generally that will occur in areas and arenas where you didn't have a lot of natural blocks anyway. To really create transformational shifts in areas that you're naturally not wired to have it occur, that takes skill, it takes awareness. And just like anything, and I often use the analogy of the operating systems in our phone or our computers. There is a limit to them. And if we want to upload exciting new apps or new skills, if that operating system just doesn't allow for it, you can try to download it as many times as you like. It's not going to land on your home screen for you to access because it doesn't have the receptors, right? So the thing about transformational coaching that I want to share with you is it's not about some people being more capable or more lucky or more, more motivated or having more willpower. It's just that some people know better how to work with the system of their inner humanity or their inner humanness. Yeah. And when you really master that dance, when you master the system and you understand it's not broken, it's impeccably wired for your survival. And what you want to do is not fight it, but work with it. When you do that, you start to have a grace and a self-reverence that comes from self-awareness and self-acceptance that ultimately allows for greater self-ascension. And that's an ongoing journey. That's an ongoing journey, because where you are right now to what you think you want, there are things beyond what you think you want that you can't yet even conceive of, because they're so far beyond the realms of your current frame of reality. Now, I think that's exciting. Some people might say that's scary, but again, that would be based on our perspectives and how much experience we have transitioning through change and experiencing it as magical, or, for some people, murderous. So, why do I think that every human should know these skills? Well, because as I've kind of just pointed out, every human is human. If you don't have the handbook to your car or even your alarm clock, and I just say that because I bought my girls alarm clocks, and gosh, I tell you what, I felt like I needed a university degree just to figure out how to code in the time and work out the alarm system. Something about digital is sometimes trickier than analog. I remember the old alarm clocks that you just turn the dial on the back and it was done. Anyway, I digress. If you don't have the manual, sometimes you'll just get lucky and figure it out, right? But having the manual makes it a heck of a lot easier and a lot quicker, and you waste a lot less time and energy. And what many of us are doing is we're kind of figuring out our operating systems by bleeding on other people throughout life and eventually getting frustrated and maybe eventually seeking help. We all know that person who's gone through, relationship after relationship after relationship, and except for the person's face and name being different, the relationship is essentially the same. And their system is calling in an experience because that's what it codes as safe, that's what it codes as allowable, and yet they survive it, but they never move beyond it. They never move into thriving. They never move into a new experience because their system has not been coded to accept that app, if you will. So is it available to them? Of course it is. But it does require a recoding and a rewiring, which first of all requires an awareness of what's there and an awareness of how the system works. And this is why I'm so passionate about teaching people the art of coaching. And I want to pause and just say this is also why I did my coaching certification with over 10 years ago now. I did my coaching certification with zero intention of being a coach. I didn't even know what a coach was. Back then, there wasn't like an industry of coaches. I just did it because I wanted to learn more about myself, about my family, patterns, about how to create change, how to up level, how to release ceilings of abundance, how to experience more energy, like all the things. I did it for myself. I was, super greedy and selfish, you could argue. But the truth is, and I've learned this every time I've invested in my personal development, every dollar I invest in me, one, I get a return of investment that's infinite inside of my own experience of life, my own energy, my own empowerment, my own expression, all of those things, which is freaking awesome. But beyond that, I get now skills because my awareness of myself has increased, because my wholeness and acceptance of myself has increased. As a mirror for anyone in my life, I can now see, love, accept, and access more of them because the world is holographic. And this is why we often hear you can only love another to the degree to which you love yourself, or you can only see that which you are. All of these phrases are true on some level, and yet the more I study and the deeper I look into things and across things and get into the energetics and the somatics, and the wider and broader and more magical it all gets, the more I can definitely say too, the paradox exists and there's always a yes and conversation to be had. So I'm certainly not saying I've got all the answers, but I've certainly been a seeker of the truth. I've been a seeker of wisdom. And in that seeking as a student, and I'm still a student, I'm constantly literally sitting as a student in courses and learnings. I then take that and I teach it. So not only am I now a better mirror for my partner, not only am I a better and safer container for my children, so that I'm less triggered, so that I communicate from a higher, more loving perspective, so that by the beingness of my beingness being up-leveled and expanded, they literally get to just see me and my frequency as a role model, and that already elevates their access to that frequency, right? Beyond all of that, because I actually teach, and if you are literally a leader in any space, if you're a teacher, a manager, a CEO, a coach, a trainer, or just a co-worker with influence, which all of us are on some level if we choose to use our personal power of impact and influence, when you upgrade your inner system, when you know how to do that, when you can take ownership of it, you are gifted an infinite ability to positively ripple outwards into the world a higher consciousness, a higher perspective. And that is what I'm here for. I really do believe that our souls, people talk about what's the meaning of life, and I don't know. It's one of the big existential questions, right? And some days I will say it's just happiness, be happy. And then other days I will say it's to experience, like we're just here to experience. What I do know is that on the macro and the micro, because all parts affect the whole, and everything we do in small ways, we do in all ways, and small things and big things, right? If we look at nature and we look at literally the universe, which we are infinitely and always connected to, all it is doing is expanding. It is constantly expanding. It is growing. So growth is really our only purpose. It is to know and experience more, to unfold new learnings. So in this lifetime, your soul's here to learn some lessons. Maybe it's just a few, maybe it's lots, maybe it's to grow through many things. And so this is where the happiness thing is interesting, because I do believe, we are able to be happy, and that's a beautiful gift. And I also believe that the shadow and the challenges do provide us with ultimately a different kind of happiness. And I would then argue that when you are at a mastery level of your growth and a mastery level of your acceptance of self and other, and you know how to work with and dance with all of the things, then actually you can be happy. I know this sounds very weird, but sit with me for a moment. You can be in a calm happiness, not an elated joy state, but a calm happiness, if you will, even in the discomfort of the challenge. You can be in the awareness and the gratitude of the gift, even in the challenge. And then it's like dancing in the rain. It's like you recognize it's a season. You recognize it's being gifted to you. You recognize it's an opportunity. It's like a trigger is a teacher, right? But when you don't have the handbook and you don't understand the system and you're fighting yourself, then when that trigger comes in, when that person says something, when life throws you a block, a resistance, a flat tire, whatever the goddamn thing it is, right? When you don't recognize that triggers are teachers, you react, and you react from this primal state. You react from this survival state. You react from this very small, original coded state. And you do it again and again and again, and it feels like life's on Groundhog Day. But when you move through it, when you understand how to work with your own codes and other people's codes, and you learn to see other people's wounds exploding, you recognize it's not personal. You recognize it's actually not about you, and you can hold space for them, and you can hold your sovereign, space safe from their projections. And when you're able to do that, well, then rather than seeing triggers as, tests, you really do get excited because you recognize they're opportunities to grow more, opportunities to know more. And yeah, look, I totally get that to many people, there's that saying, for those who couldn't hear the music, those who were seen to dance were considered crazy. I'm very comfortable with the reality or awareness that some people would consider me delusional, right? I've had that my whole life. I've always been a supreme optimist. I've always been a make a way out of no way person. That's always been innate in me. But then when I did the deep learnings, and when I say deep learnings, it's not just strategy and it's not just mindset. In fact, that was always my strong suit. What really opened the world for me 10 years ago was when everything I thought I knew imploded. All of my ways of doing failed me. And I got cracked open. And then I went deep into energetics. I went deep into somatic work. I went deep into quantum. And as a result of that, I realized we are so much more than our body. We are so much more than our mind. We are so much more than the stories we tell ourselves. And we can access change in way faster ways than simply looking at our belief structures. And we hold belief structures, patterns, and codes in our body. We hold them in our energetic field. We're kind of just a magical universe in and of ourselves. And much like when you're an astrologer or a quantum physics, specialist, when you understand what's happening, when you see a shooting star and when you see a planet explode, you watch it with wonder. You watch it with delight. You watch it with an awareness that that's exactly what it's meant to be doing, and only positive ripple will flow from that. So this is often why I call, particularly my audience, if you will, inside of a lot of my programs, I call them human supernovas, because if you're lucky enough, you will melt at your core to explode into the brightest expression of yourself, which is what a supernova is. It's an exploding star. So if you've ever heard me say that, that's why I say that when I greet people, particularly in my private kind of programs and courses. But I digress and I get a little kind of caught up in why I love growth work. Here's what I want you to know. If you're a mother, getting certified as a coach will make you the most exceptional, embodied, calm, present human that you can be. And particularly in the certification that I get to facilitate through the School of Growth called Whole, WHOLE, we teach you all of the NLP and the language so that you can communicate to your business partners, your children, your lovers, yourself in ways that are empowering, enrolling, and transformative. And we most importantly get to recode your unconscious mind because, we all, I hopefully all know that that's what's controlling 95% of your day. That's your automatic system on, I suppose, autoplay based on codes that you wrote from pre-birth to 7 years of age that you often don't even know are there. The number of times, endless, that I've been with people that they're frustrated about what's happening in the now, and we just distill straight down to what's really going on. We regress back to when it got coded, and it always makes sense, and it's always amazing, and it's always from a place of love. And so from that awareness and that knowing, then we have access to shift it, to upgrade it, and to lovingly integrate it into a more empowered way of being. And there are lots of tools and lots of ways to do that. And depending on the person, one will often fit better than the other. So one of the things that I pride myself and ourselves on inside of this whole coaching certification is that we give the widest range of tools, we call them change work tools, to facilitate shifts and transformation. Because while one way will work, it won't always work for everyone. And so having many tools means that you are able to meet your client. And by client, the client is a word I use, but I use my coaching on my children. I use it, it's hard to use it on family and partners, but they're still tools. You can't unlearn these language patterns. You can't unknow what you know. And getting back to parenting, or particularly in a human, our course goes deeply into family systems and family constellations. And so when we heal our wounds, we absolutely are healing 7 generations before and after us, because we are part of a larger collective. And when you understand and work in that space, you will have no doubt that what I just said is true on a level that most people will never truly comprehend, and that's okay. And you'll also understand the holographics of the universe and how actually you are completely already masterful at manifestation. You are manifesting based on your codes. And if you want an upgraded life, if you want an expanded reality, that's available to you. It just requires you getting present and recoding, rewiring, and therefore magnetizing in a whole new reality. It's all available. And I have absolute certainty that it is, because I've worked with hundreds of people in having this happen, personally, and thousands through programs, right? And even more and more through the coaches that I've coached, who then go on to create serious transformation in the lives of so many people, and then of course their family. And that's my why. That's why I do this, to unfold light and to have, thought leaders, growth getters, and just awakened, heart-centered humans activate a positive ripple of higher consciousness in the world, because one person matters. So I don't mind, if my life was I've had so many people, I've been very grateful through the work as a coach to have so many people reach out and say, thank you, you changed my life, thank you, without you. And, my ego loves that, but I also know that I got as much from it as they did, and that they will then go on to do that for someone else, just as my teachers have changed my world and freed me, just as the experiences that I have learned, by all of them, regardless of whether they're somatic, so in the body, whether it's breath work, whether it's energy work, whether it's field work, whether it's holographic work, whether it's family systems and family constellation work, whether it's conscious or subconscious work, it doesn't matter. They're all powerful in creating shifts. And each of them has added, if you will, to the snowball that became the avalanche of my liberation from the cage of my conditioning. And so when I say that every human should do coaching certification, I'm actually being genuine. I'm not saying every human should be a coach. Yeah? I'm not saying every human needs to go professionally and brand themselves as a coach, but I'm saying imagine if every family, mum and dad, knew what they were really running and they owned it and they integrated it and they did their work on their sovereign soul. The children in that family, well, first of all, not a whole lot of work for them to do, is there? But they've also got great role models. They've got people who can hold space for them. There's not projection. There's not blame, shame, guilt being laid all over the place. We're cleaning up our side of the street, and in doing so, we have capacity to support others to clean up theirs. So yeah, I mean, and this is where I get to invite you. If you want to do the deepest personal work of your life, if you want to clean up your lineage from your ancestry, if you want to clean up stuff that you're potentially carrying from, lifetimes ago perhaps, or certainly what was activated in this lifetime. And we've all got quote unquote trauma, and it's a spectrum. And it doesn't matter if someone's is bigger or worse than yours. I define trauma as anything that is inhibiting you in the now from being your fullest, most authentic whole self. And that opens up trauma to be a lot of things. And so when we clean up, heal, and integrate our trauma, we access so much more life force, so much more energy, so much more magic, so much more power. And that's really what it is a reclamation of power. So if you are feeling called to reclaim your power, if you're feeling curious about, wow, Marina, I never really thought about it like that. Maybe I could just be the best version of me. Maybe I could really step into self-leadership and self-agency and self-love and self-sovereignty and continue to do the work I'm already doing. Well, then consider this program. Consider it. It is an investment in time. You are going to be pushed. You need to be willing to look at your shit. And not because your shit is stinky and gross and ugly and you should be dragged over the coals for it, but rather because all of us have got shit. And when we can lovingly look at it and accept it, it no longer holds power over you. It can no longer be used against you, by you, or anyone else. You will be truly liberated in the most true sense of the word. Free to flow, free to feel fulfilled, free to reclaim your life. I'm so passionate about coaching. I love doing it. It's an unbelievably fulfilling work. And FYI, on a career level, it's unbelievably, profitable as well, in the sense that you have the flexibility to create income either as a side hustle or 6 or 7 figures. And as someone who is a business coach, a big part or towards the end of this programming, once we have you unbelievably confident to create transformational change and utilize a wide range of change work modalities, once we have you really world-class as a coach, then we gear you up to hone your message, hone your magic into your unique packaging, your unique presentation, and essentially, your career game plan. And that's a big part of my job and a big part of what I love to do too. And it's interesting when I look back and I follow the crumbs, my life has perfectly prepared me to teach, to train, and then to support the entrepreneurial aspect of this. Although, like I've said, I did my coaching certification with no intention of being a coach, and some of my coaching grads, they take this knowledge and they just get to enjoy a more empowered, more centered, more calm, more grace-filled life as a result of the work they did for themselves and for the people that they love in their lives. So if you feel called, if you're curious, what can you do? Well, first of all, you can just DM me. I heard about the podcast. I want to know about coaching. I can send you a curriculum. I can direct you to the webpage, which is www.theschoolofgrowth.com/whole, WHOLE. And you can check out more information. You can, from that page, either request the curriculum, you can request a call with me or the team. And of course, you can also request to apply. It is an application-only kind of certification because this program is not for everyone. We do need to make sure that you're ready for the depth of it, that you're ready to commit the time and energy for it. And that's something that we do to ensure that we're taking care of you and also ensuring that the level at which we're teaching is something that all of the participants are able to access. But that's very simple. And if it's not right now, then we have other tools and skills that we can gift you so that you can, sometime in the future, circle back around and take on this unbelievably powerful deep dive into reclaiming your power. So it doesn't matter what field you're in. It doesn't matter if you're an athlete. It doesn't matter if you're a chef. It doesn't matter if you're a child care worker. I truly believe that your life would be enhanced if you had the handbook to your humanness and you up-leveled how you played the game. If you knew how to win the game, not fight yourself in the game. Just imagine the life force, the energy you'd have, and what you'd be able to create. Imagine what you'd be able to call in. And I ask you right now, as I finish this up, what life would you call in for yourself? If you didn't have the ceilings, if you didn't have the blocks, if you didn't have that limited operating system that currently is saying no, if you knew it was possible and you could wave a magic wand, what would you choose to create? And the skills of a coach are the exact skills that call that future reality into the now. I think everybody walking the planet deserves to live their dream life. Everyone walking the planet deserves to be their fullest expression. And that is why I believe that everybody walking the planet would benefit from the skill set of a transformational holistic coach. All right, that's my pitch. And I'm just sharing it regardless of whether or not you ever step into a coaching container with me. One thing I will say is please don't confuse this course and this program with a weekend NLP course or a 2-day or an online course. It's not even in the same category. That's like comparing, a dinosaur doll to a dinosaur. That's a terrible metaphor. But my point is, it's just not the same. And and I suppose for the people who feel called, they already know that. So with love, I see you, I am you, and I love you. And I hope this episode was interesting, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Stay amazing, stay in your power, and know that you are worthy, that you are here for a reason, and that all we really need is for you to shine your light. So be brave and bold and shine your